So my opinion on Pelosi going to Taiwan and China is that it is incredibly stupider for her to go. Not because I think World War III is going to happen, because I don't. And I'll talk about why I don't think it's going to happen in a map that I'm about to show here in a bit. I think it's dumb because it undermines the U.S.'s tightrope that we have walked for a long time, that the U.S. recognizes a one China policy, meaning that we have formal ties with China rather than the island of Taiwan. And when Pelosi goes in the capacity of Speaker of the House, she is going in a formal capacity as a representative of the United States to a nation that we don't recognize as sovereign. Now, we support Taiwan's effort to be a democratic entity, but we don't recognize it because we like to ride the fence. We like to keep trade ties with China as well as Taiwan, so we kind of mix this Sino-U.S. relations, and this policy of ambiguity has been a cornerstone of how we've maintained relations. But as dumb as I think it is that Pelosi is going to Taiwan, I would think it would be infinitely more stupid for China to do something, because 99 times out of 100, they will not win that scenario. They will not win a war against Taiwan. They will not win a war against the U.S. In fact, I think the U.S. would end a war with China within a few weeks with very minimal casualties on either side, because the U.S. doesn't even have to enter the South China Sea to defeat China. And I'll show you why here on the maps. So using this map, I'm going to show you exactly why it would be incredibly dumb for China to go to war with the U.S. or even try to invade Taiwan. And I'm going to start off with Taiwan. So as you can see here, this right here is the Taiwan Strait. China has roughly 2.5 months to try and build up along the coast here enough amphibious forces to hit the Taiwanese coast. The reason for this is because from October to March, the Taiwan Strait is incredibly treacherous. It is one of the most treacherous navigable waterways in the world during the winter months. So many times during exercises, there's videos of it. In the wintertime, China's done exercises, just kind of incursions, and they show boats capsizing. Second reason, China still doesn't have enough amphibious capability to cross this strait with enough troops to land en masse to ensure they can take Taiwan. And that doesn't even include the fact that the whole world would see a buildup taking place. And the U.S. has said that they do not see a buildup outside of the standard announced training efforts they were going to have into Taiwan, or into the strait. Now, the reality is it would take at a minimum, and I mean a bare minimum, 60 days for them to build combat power. That puts them at roughly October 1st, and that's if they started today. Most experts say it would take about probably 90 to 120 days, and that pushes them into the treacherous Taiwan Strait area, where starting around mid-October, November, the Taiwan Strait becomes virtually impassable by all but the most robust ships. China would be stuck having to use its internal amphibious capability, which is not very strong, plus commercial capability. And Taiwan gets a vote. They get a vote in this. Taiwan would use their robust artillery, their robust air force to basically hit everything that's crossing. They would mine around their beaches. They would create points on the beaches. They've even created trenches with burning oil that spews up out of the sand. I mean, Taiwan doesn't fuck around. I'll put it to you this way. Ukraine had 8 years to prepare for an invasion from Russia. Taiwan has had 70 years, and they're better at it and are more well-funded and are better trained. So just in the initial invasion alone, I believe China would lose 500,000 troops in probably 48 hours trying to cross. I don't think China wants to risk that. But here's the deal. I'm going to zoom out I'm going to go broader why it would be incredibly stupid for China to start this fight. Currently, China receives oil from a few points. The first is a pipeline from Russia's Gazprom that runs here in this region, and then it has a pipeline that runs in this region. The pipeline actually runs like this, basically. That's where they get oil, but that's not very much oil in the grand scheme of things. China gets the vast, and I mean the vast majority of its oil and energy from the Middle East and North America. In fact, the U.S. has increased its oil sales to China by 2,000%. Guess what happens to that oil sales when China decides to start a fight with the United States? That gets shut off. So in the broader scale of things, and I'll zoom out, you see China, obviously right here, right there, that's a not straight line. But Chinese oil comes outside of those pipelines I talked about, comes from two areas. And I guess I'm going to have to zoom it out. Yeah, right about here. It comes from the Persian Gulf through here, around, and then through obviously there, and then gets to the ports. And then it comes from the North America by the East China Sea. So in a war against the U.S., you can basically 100% guarantee North American supplies are cut off. The U.S. doesn't have to fight China in here to basically kill them. The U.S. just has to stop all exports of oil in this region here. China does not have the capability to launch an expeditionary navy to fight the U.S. Navy in the Arabian Sea and the Persian Gulf. Period. That's all. The U.S. doesn't have to fire a single damn shot. Taiwan can hold on as an island for probably 3-6 months, and given what we've seen in Ukraine, probably longer. Yes, a lot of death and destruction would happen, but the U.S. would cause irreparable damage economically and in their energy sector by simply stopping oil imports from the Persian Gulf and stopping them from coming from North America. The oil, all but Russian oil, is shut off at that point. Russia doesn't have the logistics capacity to fuel their own war effort and China's war effort simultaneously. And that assumes that the United States allows this pipeline to continue to exist. That's really close. It doesn't take much for cruise missiles to fly in and destroy this pipeline. So the only source of oil China would have would be coming through this area right here. And that is not a lot of oil. So the reality is, just those things alone, just the fact that Taiwan could adequately defend itself and kill 500,000 Chinese in the first week, and the U.S. could shut off all oil imports with the exception of a small pipeline coming from Russia, would cripple China. I'm not even talking about blocking China from the U.S. dollar, of which the Chinese have the most reserves of, other than Japan, I believe. Japan is the country that has more reserves in the U.S. dollar. Cutting them off like we've done to Russia would cripple China because it is an export-driven economy. The sanctions that we impose on Russia would hurt China so much more because they need external exports more than Russia needs the external exports. Russia is suffering, make no mistake, but they are able to absorb that suffering. China certainly cannot, and they can't afford to lose that many people with their demographic problems. I talked about their economy is heading towards the dumpster right now because of various corrupt and terrible practices in their real estate markets. This is just would be incredibly stupid, and that's why I don't think just those two alone. The U.S. doesn't even have to fire a shot here, and this is what happens to China. So that's why I don't think it's a viable option for China.